And a big welcome to today for Prava, where we're going to talk about asking. So I hope you've had a wonderful week, and we're here at Thursday, yay, Friday tomorrow, and another weekend. And what's interesting, so at the moment, I'm feeling like there's a real interesting change in the kind of, I can feel everything moving up and down as we go through all the things that we're going through coronavirus and all those things that are happening worldwide. And it's interesting for me to watch the people around me and what's happening in the news. I do occasionally just scan the news just to see to get a feel for what's happening out there. And it kind of feels like a bit of a downer at this moment. So what I wanted to cover today was another technique for helping you get what you need and being supported throughout this bizarre and totally uncertain time in history and in our world. And one of the big parts of that is being able to ask for what you want. At any level, at a big level, like asking those big questions, maybe around your work or relationship questions and things like that, down to little tiny things, the day to day, because I think that's something that I'm noticing in talking to a lot of people. This is a real period of adjustment, and a lot of us are now working from home where we hadn't been before perhaps. We're helping our kids. I don't know, in Queensland, we're all back in school, and it's feeling our way through actually having the kids now at home. So us working at home and the kids working at home, and being able to kind of balance that. And a big part of moving through that with grace and ease and happiness is being able to ask for what you want. And I noticed that both in us and the kids. And I'm sure if you've got kids at home, you're probably noticing that too. There's probably a lot of frustrations because they can't necessarily ask the questions that they normally would be able to of their teachers. But anyway, let's have a look at asking, because it is such an important part of helping your brain feel. So remember, the whole point of Prava and the whole key to living this life of health, wealth, and happiness, a huge key to that is keeping your brain in the I am safe mode as much as possible. And being able to ask for what you want gives your brain a big boost in confidence, because if you can step up and actually ask for something, if you feel things aren't quite right or you want someone to do something for you, if you're able to step up and just ask them, then you've got that feeling of power. I have the power to change things in my world. I have the power to make things different if I want to. I have that feeling, that confidence to know that if I need something or I want something, I have the ability to ask for it. Now, there's a few reasons why many of us don't ask for what we really want and need deep down. One of those things might be that the fear of what you're going to get back in response. It might be no. And that can be really hard to take, especially if you've asked for something quite personal that means a lot to you, or maybe you're nervous because you're asking for something and you're worried that maybe the response will be anger or aggression or something like that. And you may have picked that up or learnt that perhaps from your childhood or perhaps from relationships, that sometimes when you ask for things, the response is actually quite negative. And that's something that we all need to be able to move through. And if you think about it, in terms of, I'll address each one. So there's that idea, who's with me, who's actually been in that situation where you're nervous about asking for something because you're a bit afraid of the response. Is it going to be negative? Are they going to say a big fat no? And that's going to really kind of kick me off balance or make me feel bad about myself? Or am I worried that they might get aggressive or angry or upset with me because I asked that? So in order to move through that, if you find that you're wanting to ask for something and you're finding that you're worried about that, that really relates to the P of Prava, which is that powerful thinking. And what you can do before, if you feel like you're nervous about asking for something, think about those 3 elements of powerful thinking. Go back to the live stream on that. I went through the 3 elements of powerful thinking. But remember, first of all, it's a powerful thinking is about understanding that it's never all because of you. Whatever their response is, some of it may be because of you, but it's never all of it. They might say no because they're having a bad day. They might say no because they're just irritable and frustrated themselves. They might be feeling upset themselves. So they're saying no on sort of autopilot no, even though not really considering maybe even what you're asking and thinking about, okay, how could I accommodate that? So thinking about the fact that the other person's response is actually a lot up to them. It's not all about you. And that's that powerful thinking idea that good things, we must take credit for the good things in our life. So if they say yes, you can say, yeah, part of that is because of me. But also in the opposite, if it's a negative response, just understanding that it's not all about you. There's other factors, and you need to remember to remind yourself, look, there's other things that may have made them say no in that moment. See, again, if you ask again at a different time or in a different way, the answer might be very different or the reaction might be very different. And that's the second element of powerful thinking, understanding that things change. So just because you asked one time and they said no or had a negative reaction, that doesn't mean that it will happen exactly the same if you ask again. I think that's something a lot of us are afraid to do. We ask, we get a no, and then we're afraid to ask again. We think, oh, okay, no, and I'm not going to ask that ever again. But really, we do have the right to ask again, and the reaction may be very different the next time round. So understanding, powerful thinking is understanding that things change. Just because it's a no this time doesn't mean it'll be a no next time, or the reaction will be different next time. So we can ask again. So that can give you a feeling of power as well. Okay, well, I got a no this time, but I'm going to work out, could I ask that in a different way? Would I, is there a better time that perhaps I could bring this question or this request to this person? The other thing, the third part of powerful thinking is understanding that even if you do ask for something and you do get a no or a negative reaction, that doesn't relate to the other areas of your life. So just because you got a no for that particular question, maybe it was something you asked your boss for work, you asked them for something and they said no. Just because they said no to you in that moment doesn't mean that it affects everything else in your life. It doesn't affect your other relationships, it doesn't affect your friendships, it doesn't affect your sports and your hobbies, it doesn't affect your passions. All these other areas of your life. It doesn't affect your health. It doesn't affect other things. There's all these other parts of your life that little segment, that little no, didn't actually affect. So we make sure we isolate that no to that particular incident. And that's part of that feeling of, that's how you master that technique of allowing things to just wash over you, that it doesn't deeply affect you and send you off the rails and send you into an emotional response, which is, remember, when you get that emotional response, that's your amygdala saying, oh my God, I'm not safe, and clicking in and starting to fire off all those nervous system responses and the cortisol, the hormones, the adrenaline perhaps. And if that does happen, just recognize, okay, righto, it's fired. Obviously, my brain thought that response was not safe. Remember, that response, the actual physical response is actually only 90 seconds. If you can ride that through and just realize, remember, powerful thinking through that, then if you can get through that emotional response and then go back into your logical, okay, now I'm back into normal thinking, I shouldn't say normal. My logical thinking, it's okay, I can manage the emotional response. Now I can ask again, or I can go back and I can sort of sit back and think about that situation and think, okay, how could I have asked that? How can I ask that a different way next time and maybe get a different result next time? So that's that first reason why often we don't ask for what we want. The second reason that we often don't ask for what we want is because it's a feeling of deservability. Do I actually deserve to be given what I'm asking for. And that can be based back into your past, into the what you believed you deserved when you were growing up, what you were told when you were a young child was a good thing or a bad thing to ask for. And that happens a lot. And obviously, when we're little kids, our parents are just trying to keep peace. They're trying to teach you how to often be quiet, be respectful, be honest, be all those things that we like to see in our children. Now, that's not necessarily, now some of those things, obviously, honesty, and it's a good thing to have social graces and understand how humans interact. But a lot of the time as children, we get that a little bit mixed up, and we think that because we were told when we were young, stop asking me this over and over again, or no, you're not allowed to have that, and we're told a lot when we're children, and we bring that through into our adulthood, thinking that instead of thinking that, okay, well, our parents, we don't have that ability to step back and go, oh, okay, well, our parents were just doing that because they needed to get on with things. They needed to create a household that worked, and they needed me to behave in certain ways in order for that to happen. We often, as little children, take that very personally, and we take it to heart, and we think that this has some message about what we deserve and what we believe that we're allowed to have. And we can change that as we go through into adulthood, and that's the R in Prava, is R for rights. Understanding that what you grew up believing made you a good girl or a good boy is actually not necessarily right for you now that you're an adult. The rules are different. You can actually make your own rules now that you're an adult. Of course, we are always kind and generous, and we want to be understanding and loving and caring about people. But we also need to balance that with the idea that we actually have the right. There are certain things that we do have a right to do. And one of those things is we have a right to ask for what we want. No matter what the response and anything that comes back to us, we still had the right to ask for that. And we deserve to receive those things that we really desire. And so one of the ways that you can help, if you feel like that's something that's holding you back, that's stopping you asking for what you really, really want in life, even if that's a small thing, even if you're exhausted and you just need a big hug, sometimes even that can be hard for some people to ask for. And maybe it's just the practical things like help with washing up or doing the dishes, or help around the house, or help with the kids, or help with work. Like now that we're working together in an environment where we've got two people at home, obviously that can be really tough when you've got two, especially small children around. And I know I've done that for many, many years. It can be very hard. And being able to ask the other person to set up time so that both of you have the ability to have peaceful time where you can just focus and get work done. Even asking for things like that, being okay, because you deserve the ability to get focused and have time for yourself, to be able to do the things that you need to be able to do, to either look after yourself or earn money or whatever it is. So being okay with the idea that saying, okay, yes, I do deserve these things. I have the right to ask for what I want or what I need. And I have the right to ask again. Even if the answer is no the first time, I have the right to ask again. And maybe at a later date or a later stage, that's okay. You can ask again. And just understanding that sometimes our fears and everything are generated when we were little kids, and understanding that life's different now. Now that we're adults, we can make the rules and we can ask for what we want. Now, the third thing that often makes us not willing to ask for what we want is that fear of showing our vulnerability. And I don't know about you, you can comment if you like. Who else is, I know I grew up valuing very, very much independence, being able to do stuff myself, being able to control my world, being able to get things done, being able to fix stuff. And that was very, very important to me. And so I found it, and I still find it sometimes hard to actually admit that, no, I can't do something. And I'm a very competitive person as well. Whenever I take something on, I want to do it really, really well. And I'm very competitive, and I want to make sure that I can do it to not just my best of my ability, but also I compare myself to other people. Anyone else like that? Now that's a recipe for disaster when you realize that instead of asking for help. So I'll give you an example. Pre my accident, very much I would always do everything myself let's say in the kitchen, cooking. So putting all the dinners together and making everything happen. It was just, to me, I used to think, well, it's faster and easier if I just do it. And I'm sure a lot of you have been in that situation where you think, okay, yes, I know I should get someone to help me, but it's just too much of a pain. And you might do this in business as well, especially if you're just moving from PAYG over to being an entrepreneur. You might recognize this in yourself as well, where you think, it's just easier if I do it myself. I won't ask an outsource. I won't get an outsourcer, or I won't get someone to help me with that. I'll just try and figure it out myself. I'll get it done myself. And you might spend hours trying to figure that thing out. You're searching around on YouTube, you're figuring, and you're just getting yourself wound into this hole because you can't. And then you start like dumping on yourself because, why can't I do this? Why can't I understand this? I must be so dumb. That's getting into then that negative, really disempowering thinking. Saying those blanket statements like, why can't I do this? Or I must be stupid, or something like that. So whether this is for work where you're thinking, oh no, I should know how to do that. See, there's a should. I should know how to do that. I really should figure that out myself. Or whether it's at home. It's just easier and quicker if I can do that myself. I want to cook the dinner. I need to get it done. I'll just do it. Now, the problem with that is you never give the people around you the opportunity to actually help you. And you may have not realized that there's lots and lots of people around you who are very willing to help. They actually want to help you, but you don't let them. Because number one, you feel like that's a failing somehow. If you need to ask for help, or if you do ask for help, that somehow that's you being not good enough or failing, which is so not true. Everybody needs help. We all do. And that was a big, big lesson that I needed to learn. And perhaps if you think about your life and think about your behavior and what you do when you get into those situations, perhaps you're going around in that circle as well. And it's really, really good to recognize that, because I don't know about, I know that if you don't recognize that, that is just a recipe for chronic stress, unhealthiness, and probably in the end, things like burnout. And I know who here has experienced burnout. I'm actually shocked at when I ask people that question, how many people actually have experienced burnout, especially in our society. It's amazing. Say a yes if you've experienced burnout or chronic fatigue or something like that. That's the result of that chronic stress. And a lot of that is because we think we have to do everything ourselves, and we're afraid to ask because we don't want to feel vulnerable. We don't want to show that perhaps we're not good at something, or that we're not able to do something, or we're not capable of doing something. And the sad thing about that is, not only are you hurting yourself, you're also not allowing those people around you in. And what I learned, one of the biggest lessons that I learned when so if you hadn't heard me before, I had an accident, smashed myself up on a mountain bike, and then I couldn't do those things. I was basically incapacitated. And so at that point, I realized how amazing my family are. Matt stepped up, my kids stepped up. They were doing the washing, the cleaning, the housework, all the things, the cooking, all the stuff that I thought that I had to do, and that was my responsibility, and I couldn't ask them because they couldn't do it anyway, kind of stuff. Suddenly, they all stepped up and they did it. They could do it, and they learnt it because they had to. And now that was the most important lesson. I realized, wow, I'm not letting them help me. And we're a team. So going forward from there, that was one of my biggest priorities and my biggest learnings, is to always think about my family as a team. It's not one of us trying to do something. We all can work together. And so now it's awesome when I ask the kids, hey, can you empty the dishwasher, please? Or, hey, guys, you need to put your wash on. They do all their clothes washing. They know if they need their school uniforms, they got to do the washing. So they do the washing. And I think that's a really powerful thing for them as well, because they feel more powerful in the world. They know how to do stuff. If they want something done, they can do it. And they don't have to rely on me to do it for them. And they're not feeling helpless and useless, because previous to that, I might have said, no, that's not how you do it, and do this, do that. And that's not constructive. I learned that. So maybe think about that, especially now that we're pretty much forced into being with each other. So if you've got a family or a partner, you are now forced to be in close quarters. So why not think of yourselves as a team and be okay to show some vulnerability? Maybe there's some stuff that you do all the time and you actually don't like doing it, and you wish that other people would do it for you, but you actually don't let them. So maybe now's the time to let them and allow them to do it badly. It's okay if they don't do it to 100% of what you normally do it to. Same with if in your business, if you're going to, if you're learning something. I know for a lot of you guys, you're learning how to get online. It's pretty stressful and pretty frustrating when you first do that, or you're learning how to work from home. You're learning this whole new system. So allow it to not be perfect. Allow it to be 80% of what you would normally get done. And sometimes there's going to be mistakes, and remember to be really, really forgiving on both yourself and the people around you, because that's going to give you more confidence to ask as well. Because when you ask and they do it to the best of their ability and you acknowledge that, they'll feel really, really great about helping you. And that's a wonderful thing too. The opposite of this, of being able to ask for what you want, is also just that allowing of other people to help you, to be in your life, to give you that gift of help. Because when you allow someone to help you, it's so gratifying for that person. They feel really special. They feel, because otherwise you're denying them that wonderful feeling. So think, if you struggle with this, maybe think of it in that term. Think of it in that I'm going to give them the gift of feeling really helpful, really useful. The thing that you normally feel, and that the joy that it brings you to help everyone else. How about giving them a go as well? Allow them to help you. Now, the opposite is also true. If you see that your partner is, or your family or someone around you is struggling, offer them help. This is a time when it is really, sometimes people won't help. And this is important to understand. If you see this in your partner or someone around you, often people who are very independent, who normally can handle everything, they get really, really stressed and feel very uncomfortable and unhappy when they're not able to do that. And they feel like they're failing. And normally in that situation, they'll actually shut down. They'll start to get into that mode. Their focus will go inward, and they'll not even think of asking you. It'll all be going around in their head, and they won't even think of it. So that's where you can step up. If you recognize that, you can step up and actually offer to help. Say, hey, how about I do the washing up today? Or, hey, how about, do you want me to clean the toilets? Whatever it is. Or how about I take the kids out so that you can get a couple of hours of really good focused work done without us in your way. Whatever it is, just be a little bit compassionate about an understanding that other people are feeling the same way you are. They're not asking for your help. And it's not because they're a super capable man or woman. It's because deep inside they're feeling like they'll fail. They're a failure if they're not able to do all this stuff. So if you can be a little bit understanding and compassionate about that and help them ask you, then man, that can be a wonderful sense of gratefulness as well. And perhaps think about responding. If someone does ask you for something, rather than doing your normal no, try and step back and actually think, okay, could I actually do that? And especially if it's a request for something like, oh gosh, I just need a big hug. Give them a big hug. Like, you just stand there and hold them and don't let go. Because if they ask you for that, if they've got to the point where they need that, that's really, really important to give someone. So just think, have that awareness that people, if they do ask you for something, even if they ask it in a really, shall I say, clumsy way, because some of us aren't very good at asking. And maybe that's you. If you're not good at asking, sometimes the first time you ask for what you want, it'll come out all wrong. And the person might take it totally the wrong way. So hopefully if we can look at this from both sides, be aware that someone might ask you for something, they really, really want it, and they're very nervous about asking you. Be a little bit compassionate about maybe talking it through with them rather than just blanket saying no or walking away or getting angry or upset about it. And opposite too, don't be afraid to ask. Step up and just ask. And you've got to practice your asking muscle. This is the important thing. Unless you practice, it's like any skill. You have to practice. So here's your challenge for this weekend. We're heading into the weekend. We've got Thursday, Friday, yay! Let's have some fun over the weekend. See what you can ask for. So something that you would not maybe normally ask for. So number one, ask for something that you would not normally ask for. Something that perhaps you've thought about for a long time for asking for, but you just normally wouldn't ask for. Maybe it's something to do with work. Maybe it's something to do with work hours, or something you need for work that you've been that you've thought you'd really like for a long time, but you've just been always a bit nervous to ask for. Maybe step up and ask for it. Let's see what happens. And even if you get a no, make sure you go, hey man, I'm really proud of myself. I did it. I asked for it. That was the goal. And in this case, actually, don't be afraid of a no. Actually, even expect a no. The goal of the exercise is just to ask. That's you done. That's tick. That's yep, did it. That's the yes, I did it kind of moment. Is just the fact that you asked, and no matter what the response. So maybe it's at home. Maybe ask your partner for something that you wouldn't normally ask them for. To do something that's normally your domain. So if you always do the washing up, say, hey, I'd love you to do the washing up, please. That'd be awesome. And let's see how you go. Or in a relationship, maybe something that you've been wanting. Maybe it's just a big hug. Ask them for a big hug, and hopefully they'll say yes to that. But again, if they don't, remember the powerful thinking. Perhaps they're in a really stressed, wound up mood, and they're not capable of doing that right now. And so remember, it's not all about you. Maybe it's about them as well. And you can always ask again. Okay, so that's number one. Ask for something you wouldn't normally ask for. Second thing, ask for help. Actually ask for something that you're not feeling very capable in. I want you to ask for help. So whether that's going on to the online and finding someone. So obviously we use Upwork, UPWORK, upwork.com for a lot of our outsources. And you can go on there and pretty much ask someone for help with pretty much anything that you can do online. If you don't know, say you're struggling with your computer, setting up something on your computer, go online, go on Upwork or even Airtasker. Ask someone for help with something. So this doesn't necessarily need to be your partner or something like that. Maybe go externally and ask, maybe it's your boss or a co-worker or something like that. Ask someone for some help and get them to explain it to you. Start getting kind of more comfortable with the idea of not being good at something and being able to ask for help. Don't try and struggle through and do it all yourself for once. Actually ask for help. So see how you go with that. That's the thing. And the third thing is, over the next 4 days, at some point, see if you can see a situation where you can offer help. Whether it's with your partner struggling with something, or your kids, or even someone in the street, maybe someone down the shops. Purposely go out and find an opportunity to offer help, because we need to do the opposite as well. Not only do we need to learn how to step up and ask for help, that will make you much healthier and wealthier and happier. The opposite is also true. It is a two-way street. go out there and make a commitment now to say, yes, over the next 4 days, I'm going to at least once offer my help to someone. And even if they say no, it's about the offering. And that you should give yourself a big tick. I stepped up, I did it, I offered them help. And with generosity in my spirit and in my heart, actually wanting to follow through and do whatever it is I'm going to do for them with a big smile on my face, with absolute joy and gratitude and love. So, all right, so there's your 3 challenges for the weekend. So have fun with those. And if you would like, and I'd love you to report back, if you make a comment and tell me what the results were, how you felt when you offered that help and how that went. What was that like for you and for the other person? And tell us the sort of help that you asked for and you offered, because again, when we hear each other's, it reminds us. Thank you so much, guys, for all of you who are commenting. I really, really appreciate it. And so does everyone else in the group, because it reminds us. There's so many things that you've reminded me of. Andrea, you reminded me, and Fiona, you reminded me of memories that I had forgotten. Ron, you reminded me of things that bring me joy. So I love that. And so, yes, keep that up. Thank you so much for that, guys. And you're helping the whole group by doing that. All right, guys, so have a wonderful weekend. And let's step up. Let's ask for help and offer help. All right, we'll see you next week.